Hello, guys, and welcome to 02 Easter time. And we're here to discuss about politicians around us without censorship, all is at this. And so, less than 2 weeks ahead of the election day, and we have George Bardmesser. George Bardmesser is running for the city commissioners for Sunny Isles. It's a very great area, and we are asking everyone who is ahead of this big event go and vote for him. But first of all, of course, we are asking how is everything is going on, and about your how are you, and what's everything is great with your politician opponent.
Well, as always, welcome everyone. We're glad to be doing this yet again in English. As always, a very special welcome to Jerry Joseph and his wife Jody, who I know are watching this. I know actually that Jody follows my Facebook account literally second by second. How do I know this? Because normally when I post something, I click on you can click so that only like followers or friends or whatever they call them on Facebook can like comment on your post. But every once in a while I either forget or I don't know, I'm like on my phone, the option isn't available for some reason. So Jody is there literally, within seconds, posting some crap in response. Okay, so
is he putting the likes or loves from his actual name, or his the second name?
Well, remember, Jerry, of course, we know is a Kremlin agent. So Jody's, Kremlin code name is Jody Skibinski. Maybe it's her real name, maybe it's not, I don't know, but let's just call her, sort of Kremlin code name, Jody Skibinski. So she obviously, because it literally appears within like minutes or seconds even, and sometimes like I post things like I'm on a street, talking to a voter, like with a dog or something, it's a funny picture, so I just post it for that voter, so people can see it. She is there literally, I think, 24 hours a day, just clicking on my Facebook to see if there's another post or something that she can respond to. Most of them she can't. But, like I said, every once in a while, for whatever reason, there's a post that doesn't have the sort of general public comments disabled. So she's there, posting some garbage in response to it. So I'm flattered by the attention, I should say. It's not every day that somebody is so obsessed with following my Facebook account, but here we are. So we'll actually have a good show today. We have a lot to discuss. Some pretty strange things have happened very recently, I have to say. So we'll talk about that. Now, again, as I've said many times, our campaign is really focused on issues. Okay, it's things that, problems that our city faces. I mean, we have a great city. I don't want to say that, we're not a hellhole. We're not a, hell on earth. That's not the case. No, we have a great city. Like many cities, we have, there's room for improvement, especially in our city government. So we'll talk about that. Or not everything, but we'll talk about a couple of things here. So, we'll talk about the building department. If you sort of talk to voters, one issue that comes up almost universally, it's the building department. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We'll talk about the seawall. Now, for people who don't live on the Intracoastal, they're probably saying, what's a seawall and why do we care?
But it's the closest building to the ocean, you mean, right?
No, it's on the Intracoastal side.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Not on the beach side, it's on the Intracoastal. So buildings that are next to the Intracoastal, there's a seawall there. Now, it's not a beach. There's no beach there. It's like it's called a seawall. It's like a wall that's built. So it's for people who live on the Intracoastal, it is an issue. So I'll talk a little bit about that. And of course, we'll mention a few very strange things about our friend Jerry. I mean, how can we have a show without strange things that have to do with Jerry? It's impossible. So we'll talk about that as well. Let me start with the substantive issues. Okay, so the building department.
Mm-hmm.
if you talk to people here, if you talk to voters, if you talk to residents, if you talk to owners of whether they're condos or houses, one issue that always comes up, the building department. The What's the problem? The problem essentially is the bureaucracy that has really grown to a point where it does very little except sort of sustain itself. The permitting process, the inspection process, literally everything that's going on there is bureaucratized to a point where very little actual work is getting done, or so it appears to residents, or so it appears looking at it from the outside. I would say certainly a change in philosophy is needed there. The first place where that change should start is looking at what exactly it does and what exactly requires permitting. I'll give you an example. Me and one of my volunteers, we were walking around, knocking on doors basically. So we knock on a door and the door looks like it's in the process of being replaced. Okay, it's a door in a building. Okay, just another apartment out of thousands. So we knock on the door, a woman answers, we have a long conversation, and that door has been, you need a permit to replace a door. So the first question I ask is, why do we need a permit to replace a door? Okay, the owner of the unit presumably has an interest in the quality of the work. So presumably she's not going to replace the door with some piece of crap, plywood something, right? So presumably she would replace the door with at least as good a door as the previous one. So she has an interest. The building that she lives in, has an interest in, the condo units there doing quality work. So it seems very unlikely that between all of these people, they would hire some, fly-by-night ink or some, fraudulent, some fraudster who is going to do poor work. I mean, they have as much interest as the city, I would think, in the quality of the work there. But you need a permit. Why do you need a permit? Well, they say because we want to make sure that only licensed people are. I'm not buying this. I'm really not buying this. I don't see why the city's interest in any of this is any greater than the interest of the owner and the building. Okay, so it's an additional piece of paper that somebody has to generate, somebody has to procure, costs money, obviously. So we start with that sort of concept, like what is the building department doing? I mean, why do they require a permit for replacing a door? Even replacing or upgrading your kitchen, for example, you're remodeling your kitchen. Do we really need a permit from the city to upgrade our kitchen? Okay, I mean, if you own a unit, you have every reason to be concerned that the guy doing the work is doing high quality work, right? The building you're in has every reason to be concerned about that. So why we need permits from the city, between all the insurers and it's already a fairly regulated industry, and it's already an industry where the interests of the people who pay for it are fairly, clear and transparent. So why we need permits from some bureaucracy is a question. So this again goes to the issue of what are all these permits for? Do we really need them? Is there too many? Locks on doors. I mean, there's all kinds of things that apparently now require permits, and the question is why. So we look at that. The other issue is people who have done things like kitchen remodels or construction, whatever. They've often run into a category of parasites called permit runners. Okay, so what is that? So the guy who actually does the work, like your kitchen, for example, the guy who actually redoes your kitchen, very often they're not sort of computer savvy. Okay, they're people who work with their hands. The building department requires a certain format. Okay, they needs to be fillable PDFs. Now these guys don't know this stuff. It's not that it's all that difficult to figure out. Maybe for me, because I've been doing this for decades. But for a guy who's doing the actual work, they don't have time to figure it out, and they're not often computer savvy. So a permit runner is a type of parasite who does the paperwork. So he sits between the guy who does the work and the bureaucracy in our city, okay, in the building department. So he's here and he basically does nothing except the paperwork, and that costs about 20% of the price of the job. So if you're redoing a kitchen for, I don't know, $10,000, probably these days it's a very small amount, but let's say 10,000, you're doing something. The cost will ultimately be about 12,000 because of the permit runner. Okay, so he ultimately costs about, in this example, $2,000. Guess who pays for it? You do. So it's a class of parasites that exists only because the building department requires this paperwork in that particular format. What to do? Fairly simple. What you can do is all these forms that need to be filled out in fillable PDFs, you just, on a website, just click through it. I mean, that's what needs to be done. Like even somebody who isn't computer savvy can just click through, the options and do this. But right now it isn't set up that way. Okay, right now they sort of live in the late 1990s, when fillable PDFs came on the scene.
Or the fax machine, yes, come through. Still working.
A little earlier. I remember actually when fax machines came into.
You were surprised. It's still working. It's still working. Is the people still sending fax?
Well, people still send faxes. I'm not sure there's many like physical fax machines anymore. It's all electronic. But yeah. So we have a department. Really, it's a significant part of the city's bureaucracy that seems to exist, to perpetuate itself to a large extent. Now, if you talk to them, they are drowning in work. I mean, they're working night and day. I mean, they're like literally sweating bullets there. They're like, they never rest. That's how hard they're working. They need 10 or 15 more people in the building department because of all the hard work that they're doing. So how do they deal with this? Well, that's another problem here. The other problem is that people who have worked for the city, basically building inspectors, okay, so the guys who walk around doing this inspection and ultimately write these permits, okay, they retire, then they go to work for North Miami Beach or whatever, Hollandale. And then they're hired also, in addition to that, so they're getting a pension from the city. They're getting a salary from whatever city they're working at now as employees, like North Miami Beach. And then they come back and they're hired as independent contractors to do the same exact job they were doing before, except now they're contractors. Okay, there's very little control over this. It's completely opaque. Like nobody can tell you really, how many of them, how much of it is going on, but it's definitely going on. So all of this together, every one little problem, is perhaps solvable, but all of it collectively really requires sort of re-envisioning, rethinking of what is the building department doing, why is it doing it, is it necessary, and sort of bringing the whole department, the whole process into the 21st century. So that's where we are now. The obvious question, since this is election season, right, and the election is only, 3 weeks away, where's Jerry on this? Has he done anything about this? Has he said anything about this?
Yeah,
not to my knowledge. In 3 years that he's been there, to my knowledge, he's never once really did anything about anything here. Now, the one exception might be where he sent like some emails somewhere to somebody about like pool openings and closings. I can tell you these emails that he sends to, I don't even know who he sends them to. Usually there's like 1,000 emails that come in there and they all go straight in the trash. Okay, whether they're from Jerry, whether they're from anybody, they go straight in the trash. So that's to my knowledge. Now, again, if I'm wrong, Jerry is welcome to come on the show and tell. Yeah, so there's Jerry. It's a pretty good picture of Jerry. Actually, sort of captures the pervert in him.
The mustache is like a Salvador Dali.
Yeah. So to my knowledge, no, we haven't heard anything from Jerry on this issue. I suspect he doesn't mind the whole problem, problem really. Just like the bureaucrats don't mind. The more permits there are to issue, the more opportunities there are for, let's just say, unsavory practices. Okay, the more opportunities there are for the bureaucracy to go even bigger. Like you talk to somebody who like builds a house, for example, in Golden Shores. I was talking to somebody a couple of weeks ago. So he actually built a house. So he bought, the house that was there, took it down and then built a new one. He says that the bureaucracy here is probably 3 times worse than in Canada, where he's from. And Canada is a very bureaucratized, place. So we're 3 times worse than Canada here if you want to build a house. That's not good. That's certainly something to work on. And to my knowledge, Jerry ain't working on this. So that's sort of one issue that I wanted to touch upon that matters to people who live here. And it does matter. It's a matter of money. It's convenience. I mean, imagine you have a door, okay, you need to replace. 7 months now, you haven't gotten a permit to replace the damn door. I mean, is that normal? No.
And you have to find certified staff for doing this.
I don't know what. I mean, you fill out the papers, and then the paper goes in wherever it goes, and then nothing. You can't really see who is actually working on this piece of paper, this permit. You can go and talk to the building department. It's not physically far, but they're not going to tell you anything, or they'll tell you we're working on it. That's your typical sort of response. It's it's like there's a snake that kind of eats its own tail. Like this is called Ouroboros, like a snake that eats its own tail. I mean, that's what this thing is, except the snake is getting bigger and bigger.
It happens in the nature sometimes, seriously, yeah. Well, I saw the pictures on the internet, it's weird.
Yeah. So that's the building department. Again, as I said, the solution isn't to solve every little thing. The solution is to start with a question. What is the building department doing? What does it need to do? What does it not need to do? And kind of go from there. So building department. Let me talk about another issue, and that's the seawall. So as I said earlier, for people who live on the intracoastal, and that's a significant portion of the city's residents, the seawall needs maintenance. Okay, and the reason it needs a lot of maintenance is because boats that go on the, so I'm going to get a little technical for a minute here. So boats that go on the intracoastal, the propellers cause what's called cavitation. So they're like waves, turbulence with like air bubbles in them. That's called cavitation. When boats go fast, so they generate waves. The waves, slam against the seawall. Over time, over days, months, years, these waves, these bubbles in the waves, they cause micro cracks in the wall. Okay. Over time, these micro cracks, they get bigger. Instead of being micro cracks, they're now cracks. Pieces of it start falling off. So the seawall needs to be maintained. Now, everybody knows this. It's a fact of life. So what's the problem? The problem is that if you think about roads as an analogy, so you've got roads, and there's tolls on roads, and the revenue collected from the cars is used to maintain the roads. Economically, this actually makes sense because the people who use the roads end up, to a large extent or to some extent, paying for the maintenance, which makes sense, right? If you're using the road, you should pay to maintain it, right? What about here? Well, here, that's not the case at all. Here, the boats, they paid the state, various taxes and fees for the boats. But who's responsible for maintaining the seawall? It's not the boats, okay?
It's a great question, because I think it was the federals who was responsible.
No.
Because they received this one, not the local. Well, the local have nothing.
Neither the federal government nor the state pays to maintain the seawall. For example, take Winston Towers. Okay, good example. They're all like on like a finger of land that extends into the intracoastal. right? And there's like seawall there. Okay, so each building is responsible for maintaining its own section of the seawall. But remember, the people who cause damage to it are not living in Winston Towers. They're the people who are going up and down the Intracoastal. And the faster you go, I mean, there's restrictions, but the boats often go pretty fast on there. So the faster you go, the more problems you cause, the more cavitation you cause, and the more damage to the seawall you cause. Now, it's not an instant process. It takes, so you can't really point to any one boat and say this boat is the one that's causing it. You know, it's a cumulative process that takes place, you know, months, years. But again, the people who pay to use the Intracoastal pay the state, right? The people who end up bearing the cost of that are the people who live on the Intracoastal. So what's the answer to all this? The answer is that some of the money that the boat owners pay to the state for, you know, licensing, for, you know, having the boat, should be used to pay for maintenance of the seawall. I mean, it all makes perfect sense if you think about it. You know, the people who use the Intracoastal should pay for the damage they cause to the surrounding structures. That's not what's done now. Again, have I heard Jerry ever mention anything about any of this? Not to my knowledge. I mean, I'm not sure he even thought about this at all. I mean, he's not a concept guy. You know, he's he's more what can I do here to kind of like, what's my angle here so I can benefit somehow personally here, and without making it look like I'm benefiting. That's really sort of the Jerry approach to all this. So that's the Intracoastal. Oh, that's the seawall issue that I wanted to talk about. Now, so moving on to kind of the state of the campaign. What have we been doing? We've been mostly knocking on doors in various buildings. Now that you can't register new voters anymore, so we're past the point of registration. We're past the registration deadline. So we are now knocking on doors only for registered voters in various buildings. So on a floor, you know, maybe out of 20, let's say, apartments, maybe 7 on average, give or take, actually have registered voters there, according to public records. Okay, so we have all those records. You can see it on your phone. So we're basically going around, knocking on doors, talking to people, but we don't have to ask anymore, are you a registered voter? And if not, can we register you? And we have registered a bunch of people, actually. But at this point, the deadline is passed. So we're only talking to actual registered voters at this point. And that's, what we're doing. So where is, what's the state of the race, and where is Jerry here? Well, very strange things are happening here. So let me start with elder abuse. So if you can put up that picture of Jerry in the yellow shirt, first without the marker and then later with the marker.
Yes. Give me 1 second.
So so this is a recent picture of Jerry. Now, if you remember, I showed you a picture he used on his promotional materials.
The last time in the church, yes, I remember.
So remember this one? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So compare this to what you see on the right side of the screen. You can see this is like from 40 years ago. Okay, and that's what he looks like now. But that's not even the interesting thing. If you can go look carefully at that picture, and now if we can have the other picture with a right there. Now, obviously there's a big bruise on Jerry's face. Okay, you can see it. You can't possibly ignore it. It's like
maybe this is a birthmark.
3 inches long and about 1 inch. Clearly it's a bruise. Okay, yeah, clearly. Mm-hmm. So given Jerry's age, okay, and given the whole sort of unhealthy situation in his environment, I think this is elder abuse. Frankly, I think that he is, in addition to, him being who he is, I think that he is actually being, the victim of elder abuse there. Now, what is elder abuse? Elder abuse is actually a serious problem, and there's laws about it. So, for example, one sort of evidence of elder abuse in people like Jerry is, scratches or bruises on their extremities and especially the face, because that's often where they're abused. So, I mean, it's not sort of definitive proof, but it's very good sort of indication that something not right is going on there. Jerry, if you are a victim of abuse, now who handles this? DCF, the division
We
of...
can help them on the way, yes.
Well, DCF, okay, the Department of Children and Families, actually, I mean, they deal with child abuse, obviously, or children vagrancy, whatever, but they also deal with elder abuse. So that would be one route that you, Jerry, can take and call them. They have a hotline, so you can call them. If not, contact me. I'll do what I can to help. I mean, I'm always willing to help, so contact me. It's a pretty sort of strange situation there, where a candidate for, actually not just a candidate, he's a current commissioner, soon to be former commissioner, but still a current commissioner, is the victim of elder abuse. Not good. I mean, not good. Now, I should also add, I saw him a few days ago at a service. Then he was kind of walking back from there. He looked bad. I mean, he looked unhealthy. He was like shuffling along. Just didn't look good. And then this was actually on a Sabbath, believe it or not. And he claims to be an observant Jew. And then he was like, there's some Jerry campaign signs there. So he was, I guess the wind kind of knocked him down. So he was kind of like making sure that they're like straight up and rearranging them and all that. And I'm thinking to myself, what's wrong with this picture? Okay, like, am I? I mean, again, I don't claim to be an observant Jew. Okay, so I don't follow many of these, rules, laws. But Jerry does. I mean, Jerry claims to be an observant Jew. He claims to be, he's doing the tefillin. I'm not even going to go into that. So I asked people, is this sort of kosher? I mean, can you really do this and still be an observant Jew? And they're like, no, you can't do this. I mean, it's like being a little bit pregnant. Either you are or you're not. So, if you say you're an observant Jew, fine, say it. But you cannot go and like fix up your campaign signs or whatever. It just doesn't work. So now he was there for Yom Kippur, at least for a little bit. I did not see any T-shirts, so he wasn't trying to peddle any T-shirts.
That's probably after our last broadcast here.
Yeah. I mean, people who watched us
rude.
last time, you remember how we talked about where Jerry, he brought a bunch of campaign T-shirts to the October 7 commemoration event. It was like forcing them on people, which was like no. I mean, just no. I mean, this is no, but not this time. Okay, so this time he didn't have T-shirts to hand out with him. He did, however, bring a car with him. The car had a campaign sign on it, so like Jerry Joseph, okay, and so campaign sign, and he parked it right in front of the synagogue, okay, and he was there for like a while. Again, I'm not sure how this meshes with this notion that he's an observant Jew, but even aside from that, there's not much parking there. Just Sunny Isles is a place where parking is at a premium generally. Okay, so there's not a whole lot of parking, and just to park your car in front of the synagogue, okay, for hours or however long it was there for. It wasn't like 5 minutes; it was there for a while, just to advertise your campaign. Okay, just so people would see Jerry Joseph. Okay, and it's a fake. It's even a fake name. It's not even his name. His real name is Joseph Gerstenzang. It's just not. I mean, just not. Anyway, so that's the sort of the the Yom Kippur story, if you are. Well, I should probably say. I think in Hebrew it's probably better pronounced Yom Kippur. But when I was growing up, we all, the Russians typically say Yom Kippur. So, without getting into that particular theological discussion, we can probably kind of leave that little section of our segment and move on to a very bizarre situation that I witnessed literally like 3 hours ago. I was a participant in a way. I was at City Hall for a commission workshop. Just so people know, commission workshop is, it typically happens like at 10 o'clock a few days before the actual commission meeting. And that's where the items that they're going to vote on are actually discussed, where the staff can explain in detail what exactly is going on. So the vote itself is usually, it's not a formality, but usually things are decided before.
But you just discussed about that already, right?
Right. Like, for example, the IT department is asking for another, $75,000 to upgrade the software. So they would explain what the software is, why they need more money, that kind of thing. Most of it is fairly routine, so nothing unusual happened this time, except, we were done, so I'm kind of walking out. Jerry's walking by, and he looks at me kind of weird, like his eyes are kind of like rotating in, I guess, opposite directions, okay? Like his mustache twitches, and he says, "Forcible sexual abuse." I'm like, huh? And he's like, "Forcible sexual abuse," kind of like in a hoary whisper, and keeps walking. I'm like, what are you talking about? So, I mean, it's just so strange. Like,
or maybe that signal to you asking if you need to.
Well, I don't even know what to think. I mean, is he confessing? Did he abuse somebody sexually?
Exactly.
Well, first of all, there's no such thing as forcible sexual abuse. I mean, there's sexual abuse, but by definition it's forcible. I mean, there's no separate there's no sexual abuse versus forcible sexual abuse, okay? It doesn't exist, okay? You don't say that. It's just sexual abuse. So I'm thinking, okay, who did he sexually abuse? When? Where? But why is he confessing to me? Because the chief of police is actually like not far away, right there in the room there. I mean, wouldn't it be better to confess to the chief of police and not to me? I don't know. It's just so strange. I mean, now I was walking out of there thinking, but remember all those stories about how Jerry spends an unhealthy amount of time near the school, for example, or in the park where the children. So is he trying to tell me something? Is this sort of a confession? Sort of indirectly, is he confessing? What is he saying? But then I'm thinking, Jerry kind of being Jerry, well, at the time he was Joseph Gerstensang, I guess. But Jerry being Jerry, he was growing up, I guess in the 40s or whenever he was growing up. If you ever meet Jerry in person, he's not what you would call an alpha male, okay? He's not what you would call a beta male either. He's an omega male, really. So I'm thinking, what if he's really, this is sort of a cry for help. And what he's really telling me is that as a child, he was a victim of sexual abuse. I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all, actually, if that were really the case. I'm not sure what I can do about it, I'll be honest. Jerry, if you need to talk to somebody, if you need to kind of unload what's on your mind, I'm available, talk to me. I'll listen. I'm not sure I'll have much good advice for you, but I'll at least listen. Maybe that's what you need. I honestly don't know what to make of this. Most likely it's a confession. Okay, so Jerry is trying to confess that, he did something that he shouldn't have done. Okay, I don't know where, I don't know when. So if you are a victim, or if you have information about, or if you know a victim of, Jerry's, I don't even know what to call it anymore, activities. If you're a victim of Jerry's activities, contact me, contact the police, contact both of us, I'll do what I can to help. It's just really bizarre, really strange. So that's another thing that's going on here in our fair city. You're saying, well, how much more interesting can it get? Well, it does get more interesting than that. I think yesterday, somebody started sending out texts about Jerry. You're saying, Why are we always talking about Jerry? Well, the reason we're talking about Jerry is because somebody started sending out, texts about Jerry. And there's like a picture of Jerry. I wish I sent you the picture. So there's a picture of Jerry. I think, what, let me see if I can find it. So I'll show you the.
No, I had only what you sent
No.
on
I don't think I
WhatsApp.
sent it to you. Hold on. Let me see if I can find the damn
Send me
picture.
one more time, yeah.
Yeah. Give me a moment here.
Sure.
I know No. Damn it. I should have prepared. Anyway, next time. So it's it's a picture of Jerry. I think it was taken during the June celebration, the city birthday, because he's wearing he's got a bunch of these shirts. They're really, I don't know what discount bin he buys them at, but no one else ever buys. I've never seen them on anyone else. Okay, these shirts that he wears. But I think I remember this kind of strange looking shirt because I remember he was wearing that shirt when he was kind of cruising around Sampson Park, kind of like where the children were, and he was kind of cruising around in that shirt. So I kind of remember that shirt, and I think that's when the picture was taken. Okay, so there's a picture of Jerry. Okay, and it turns out, according to this text, okay, that was sent to everybody in Sunny Isles, there is a tax lien, or there was a tax lien on his house because he didn't pay taxes, and the IRS actually had to force him to pay taxes, so they put a lien on his house. That's one thing. The other thing, apparently, he didn't pay his child support. So he has two daughters from a previous marriage who are, I think they're adults now, probably in their late 20s or maybe 30s. One of them I know doesn't talk to him, or I've been told doesn't talk to him, and actually worked for his opponent's campaign against Jerry. Okay, one of his daughters. The other one,
Revenge, kind of revenge for not paying.
Well, revenge for something.
Yes.
I mean, he described himself a loving father, a proud, loving father of three daughters. So one of those daughters doesn't talk to him and actually worked on his opponent's campaign a couple of years ago, or 3 years ago. The other daughter, I don't know if she talks to him or not. I heard that she doesn't, but I'm not actually sure about that. So, but in any case, so he was apparently not paying child support, and had to be sued to pay child support. Now this is remember that brother-in-law who was on trial for doing things with his ex-wife, or wife then at the time. So Jerry raided his daughter's college fund to pay for the criminal defense, and then later had a dispute with the lawyers about that. He is a proud father, or a loving father. He has a very strange way of showing that love. But the interesting thing is that somebody's sending out these texts, and the interesting thing is who, and I don't know who. Nobody knows who. There's some organization called Citywise Florida Inc. Now, what is that? Nobody knows. It's registered as a company by a lawyer in Fort Lauderdale who basically is like a front man for somebody. Okay, but evidently somebody really, really does not want Jerry to win this race. I mean, so Jerry pissed off a lot of people, whether anonymously, whether not anonymously, but yeah. So Jody, of course, we remember we talked how Jody's sort of the brains behind the whole Jerry operation. I mean, Jerry's not very, the thing about Jerry is he needs guidance, okay, from somebody, because he himself, without guidance, he's kind of gets lost. Okay, so Jody, remember, Kremlin code name Jody Skibinski, she is kind of the brains behind the operation. She must have had something in mind when she ratted him out as a Kremlin agent, but I'm sure there's some kind of secret plan there. Okay, so she's on Facebook evidently accusing me of being behind all this. I'm like, me? If I have something to say about Jerry, believe me, I don't have to hide behind some lawyer in Fort Lauderdale. I mean, I'll say it myself out loud, on my page and everywhere I can. So it's kind of a mystery at the moment, at least, who is behind. I have my theories about who is behind it, but for now we'll kind of keep it under wraps. But yeah, people have been getting a bunch of texts about Jerry. Things even no, I don't think I even knew this, that he was there was a lien on his house for non-payment of taxes, and that he had to be sued to pay child support. Now you'd think a guy like that, I mean, he's got a huge business going there. Like according to, remember this again? Yeah. So according to this, let me see like what it says here. So he offers registered agent services in all 50 states. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Now remember last time we talked about this business he's got. It's generating like $5,000, $7,000. I mean, it's a piddling amount. It's nothing. Okay. So, but
and
according
some
to
branches
this,
in London and everywhere. Yes.
Well, in all 50 states. Okay.
Mhm.
So now, how do I know it's bullshit? Because if he does this in all 50 states, that means he needs hundreds of people, presumably. Because remember, a registered agent business is a completely parasitic business. They don't do anything. All they do is they sit there and they wait for service of process. So if the company that they're registered agent for is sued in that state, they're there to receive the paperwork. That's it. That's all they do. Okay, so they sit all day, for years, maybe, and nothing ever comes in. But you have to be there during business hours. Okay, so now no one person can ever guarantee that he's there during business hours, right? Every day, right? So presumably it takes at a minimum 2 people, if not 3. So according to Jerry, if he's offering these in every 50 state, in every one of the 50 states, who knows how many people work for this bullshit company? Now, what is really going on? Like when he says, 50 states, like what's really going on here? What's really going on here is that if somebody let's say he's got a client, okay, that's registered in Florida, okay, and that client says, okay, I need to also get a registered agent in Texas. So what he'll do is he'll refer them to another registered agent in Texas for like a small referral fee, probably like $10 or something like that. Okay, so it's that kind of business. It really produces nothing of value. Okay, really nothing. He's a pure parasite. Okay, but yeah. So if you believe this, and here's by the way, now I again point out that Jerry does not send his literature to me. Okay, so I have to find out about all this stuff from other people, or I see some of this in the trash can. So here's more like Jerry literature. Okay, so here's another, same picture of Jerry from 40 years ago, and here's some pictures here, kind of like more recent, like from 10 years ago or 20 years ago. Now you can see that the way he looks like here and what he looks like in these small pictures is really nothing alike. I mean, here he's young. He's probably, I don't know.
That's a reason why he's never appeared in the show. You ask him to join us, but he never did it because the face is completely different. Even
he does not look like this. I mean, if you look at this and you look at the real thing, you wouldn't recognize him probably because this is from 40 years ago. It's like if you look at my picture when I was, I don't know, 17 years old. I'm sure I looked a little different when I was 17 years old than
a little different, yes.
Yeah, I mean, probably you looked a little different when you were 17 than you look now, right?
No, I look the same. I believe I'm the same.
So he's got some kind of funny pictures, but again, we've got, so like looking at, this thing here. So what do we have? So he worked at a Jewish museum as a summer job. Okay, so he's talking about his biography. Remember how for months now we've been asking about questions about Jerry, like who is Jerry? What's he been doing? All these give us some bio about Jerry. So here he says, okay, so he worked at a museum, okay, as a summer job. So he was like, I don't know, 16 or something, and then Jerry Joseph started his entrepreneurial career in 1986. Okay, so between like the late 60s when he was working in that museum as a summer intern and 1986, we got nothing, zero. So we know nothing about Jerry. Okay, there's so many questions that have been kind of piling up about Jerry that I don't even know where to start. I mean, his education, we talk about his education, like what's his education? He's been lying about Yeah. So he's been lying about his education, his background. Like, he refuses to say anything about where he was and what he was doing. For those, in the late '60s, early '70s, early '80s, nobody knows what he was doing. His name, apparently, he's fake, evidently, or at least there's a doppelganger with the identical background, identical everything, but with a name Joseph Gerstenzanger, whatever that is. Okay, his lifestyle is completely out of proportion to the ridiculous amount that this business is making. His party affiliation, he's been lying about his party. He was a registered Democrat for Obama. He was registered Democrat. Hillary Clinton, he was a Clinton person. Biden, he was a registered Democrat in 2020. And then he, in 22, he suddenly discovered his inner Republican. Okay, so he's been lying about that. There's the elder abuse issue now, and we've got photographic evidence of somebody beating up Jerry. And I can only think of, well, maybe two people. Well, there's also the brother-in-law, so I suppose there's that possibility. But I don't know who else is out there who can beat up Jerry like this. But clearly something is going on there. And now there's this sort of strange, sexual forcible, whatever that means, forcible sexual abuse. Forget the forcible part. Jerry is probably not kind of smart enough to look into all this and figure out that there's no such thing as forcible sexual. By definition, sexual abuse is presumably unwelcome if it's abuse. So there's no separate forcible versus non-forcible. Or let me put it this way: there's no such thing as non-forcible sexual abuse, to my knowledge. And I'm pretty sure the Florida statutes say the same thing. So now there's this issue that raises questions. I mean, there's questions upon questions upon questions. And I don't see Jerry providing any answers. We've been asking.
It's some mental problem, obviously, yes. And it's like a lunatic person, that's for sure.
Well, there's problems. I mean, Jerry, like I said, Jerry, he was, like looking at the way he and I want to emphasize, okay, I don't want to make this about what Jerry looks like. Okay, it's not about his appearance. Maybe some people like what's I had to research this on Google too. The what do you call the word midget? Okay, the word midget is completely politically incorrect. Okay, so I didn't know this. I had to look this up on Google, but apparently the word midget, don't say that. Okay, it's completely politically incorrect. Now, little person, apparently it's permissible, but not liked by the little person community. Okay, you can say dwarf, but some people don't like that. So what do you call them? People who are, so according to Google, and I have to go by what Google says because I'm not an expert, and apparently these things change all the time. But right now, the proper terminology is a person of short stature. Okay, so Jerry is a person of short stature. I can see how, in some cases, especially if perhaps he was himself as well a victim of sexual abuse as a child or as a young person. Maybe not a child, but maybe he was a victim of sexual abuse in high school. Possible. Maybe his coach did something.
We only can guess.
Like Tim Walz, like you probably seen, Kamala Harris's VP pick, Tim Walz. There are rumors, I don't know how credible they are, okay, but there are rumors that when he was a high school coach, there have been complaints about him engaging in, sex with male students. I don't know if it's true.
I read it. Yeah, I read it too.
Yeah, maybe it's true. Maybe it's not. I haven't seen sort of enough proof to say, or at least enough evidence to kind of conclude one way or another. So I suppose we should presume innocent until proven guilty. But let's say this is the Jerry, situation where he was the victim of this. It's actually not so unusual for somebody who was a victim of sexual abuse as a child or as a teenager to later engage in sexual abuse of others. In this case, given Jerry's, various other issues, I would say, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I'm a lawyer, so that makes me even a better psychiatrist than most
Absolutely.
psychiatrists, right? So I would say it actually makes it even more likely. The whole thing, I got to tell you, is so strange. Where are the normal candidates? In our city, like where were they 3 years ago? Okay, Jerry looked kind of
candidate of common sense, first of all, yes, but not like a normal, but for the common sense. But the Jerry doing some strange things close to the election windows, and more like a strange situation. And I ask you how he even was elected last time. How was that possible?
Accidentally. He was elected accidentally. I think I've mentioned this.
People got already. Not enough information about him.
There was that. I think I've told the story before, but there were 3 candidates. Okay, one was named Steve Tratner. One was this woman named Johanna Rabinovich, okay, who is not a Rabinovich, okay, so she's from Colombia or something. And then there was Jerry, okay, so 3 candidates. So the normal one was Steve Tratner, okay. So the 2 of them ganged up on him and made up some bullshit story, kind of like what they're doing to me, except he cared a lot more than I care. All that shit that they're saying about me, I don't give a crap. They can post whatever, they can say whatever. I'm a lawyer, I have thick skin. It's nothing. But Steve Tratner, he cared. His wife cared. So he didn't give up, but he didn't, run hard enough, I think, towards the end there. And as a result of the runoff, so there was 3 candidates, he came in third by like a hair. Okay, so the runoff was between Jerry and this crazy woman named Johanna Rabinovich. Okay, and Jerry at that point was not yet a known quantity, whereas this woman, she's like a hard left Democrat, basically. Not a good fit for Sunny Isles, obviously. She had like 10,000 Facebook followers or some such.
Mm-hmm.
She thought that 10,000 Facebook followers means that she's going to get 10,000 votes or something. No, converting Facebook followers or Instagram followers or whatever followers into actual votes is very, very difficult. Okay, so 10,000 votes does not translate into anything. When it comes to 10,000 followers, I should say, doesn't translate into anything when it comes to voters. 2/3 of them probably didn't even live in Sunny Isles, and the rest, whatever. So she lost to Jerry, okay, who, again, I should point out, was not a known quantity at that time. Okay, so people are like, okay, so there's this crazy woman, and this guy, he does look a little weird. He looks a little creepy. But people didn't know him, so they kind of took a chance on him. I don't even remember how I voted. I might not have voted for, or maybe I even voted for just because who do you vote for? Okay, who? Rabinovich? Yeah. So actually, Lenny, Lyonya, one of the people who's helping me, he was helping her. He was helping him. With him.
He's a very good person. Yes, he's very politically active.
So Jerry swore, like, if you help me, I'll support Larissa, the mayor, forever. I'll never say an unkind word about her. Now, as soon as he got elected, he's like, "What? I promised you? I never promised you a damn thing. Get away from me." So it was one of those sort of accidental situations where he got there accidentally. So that's how. Happens, but hopefully we'll have a chance to sort of correct course here. Generally, the politics in our city. I've said this before. I'll say it again. We used to be a fairly tight ship. Okay. There's always questions. There's always discussions. But a lot of the big discussions were, okay, the developer wants to build a big building here. Do we build it this tall or this tall? So sort of normal routine questions. And then 3 years ago, things started going off the rails. And it coincided with, guess what? The election of Dana Goldman, who brought in, well, Fabiola and then Jerry. And so this is like her crowd. And things really just went off the rails, everywhere. So hopefully we'll have a chance to kind of correct course this time. Yeah, so the election, as everyone knows, is November 5. So let's kind of start wrapping up here.
We have very short time.
Early voting. So vote, but if you got
early voting started next Monday, guys.
Yes, starts the 21st.
21st.
Today's the 16th. Well, whatever.
16, yes.
Mm-hmm. No, I think it's Tuesday. Whatever, 21st. Yeah, October 21st.
It's Monday, 21st. Monday. It started Monday.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Monday then.
2 weeks
so
early
if
voting.
you're voting early, you can do it in Aventura Library. I think everybody knows where Aventura Library is. So you have 2 weeks for early voting. I actually recommend that you vote early because the line, it's open from, I believe, 8 to 4, which should be enough for just about everybody. The lines tend to be virtually non-existent there. So if I would recommend actually voting early there, if you can. Now, the Monday before November 5, so on November 4, there's no early voting. Just everybody should know that.
One day before, yeah.
So if you're planning, for example, to leave town on the morning of, November 5, and you put off your vote until the last day, and you go there to Aventura Library the day before, it's closed. So plan accordingly. Vote by mail. You should have gotten your mail ballots probably about a week ago. If you didn't, we had a few cases where the ballots at first apparently didn't come, but then like several days later they did show up. So as far as we know, at least of the people who I'm told support my candidacy, everybody who should have gotten their ballots got their ballots. If you didn't, contact me. It's possible to ask for a replacement ballot. It's not difficult, but you have to ask for it. So contact me. It's easy to find my contact info. So that's about it. That's where we are. What else should I say? Yeah, if you're willing to be a poll watcher, let me know as soon as possible. Okay, we do need. We could use some more. We're trying to have enough people that we have a rotation, schedule, so that no one person has to be there for very long. But we do need poll watchers just to make sure that the Jerrys and the Fabiolas don't try any monkey business, and they definitely will try monkey business if there are no observers, because we know that. So really, it's a relatively easy job. You just basically have to be there, and just your presence is really enough to, in most cases, ensure that there's no monkey business. But if there isn't anyone, then we know Jerry and we know Fabiola. We know they'll try some monkey business.
Yeah, we should.
So we need observers.
To
contact me as soon as possible if you're willing to donate, a few hours of your time on November 5. We could also use some people to help, outside the polling stations. Unlike observers who have to be citizens and registered voters in this county, to help out on outside, there's really no particular requirement. Anyone can do it. So contact us or contact me, and we can certainly use your help. So on that note, I think we can wrap up for today.
Thank you, George, and I wish you good luck. And I just want to add some information. Malka sent me. According to the Florida of state, 3,397 mail ballots have been cast of the Wednesday morning already for the people registered at the Florida Democratic Party. So while 262,137 ballots have been turned by members of the Republican Party of Florida, an additional 129,474 ballots from non-party voters have been cast and have 14,152 third-party ballots. So we have to be turn this.
Well, it's by itself, these numbers are not that meaningful. We need to compare with the previous election cycles for this.
Yeah.
I mean, it may be
It
much
was
better.
less. It was about 30,000. Now it's almost 300. Yes, 10 times more.
Yeah, but we have to compare. You know, like on a daily basis, what the numbers were, say in 2020 versus what the numbers are now. In other words, by themselves, these numbers are very hard to interpret.
Yeah.
There used to be. I remember there was a guy on Twitter, I think in 2020, that was posting all this literally like by the hour. Okay, and you could like they had a graph and all that, and you could see, you know, like the previous cycle and that cycle, and you know, how we're doing that and all that. I don't remember what his handle. I wish I could remember, but
me neither. But
anyway,
I remember this thing.
Yeah. So, but I don't think Florida as a state is really in doubt about where it's going in the presidential or Senate election, really. But things are slowly but surely trending in Trump's direction overall. I mean, this is really more a subject for, I don't know, maybe Friday we can do the Russian sort of.
Yes, yeah, it's going to be great to compare the all digits, yes, because the poly market is showing the big difference. Trump ran more than 60%, but Kamala less than 40, even 39, I see the percent, compared with the Trump. Yes, it's a big deal. It's like...
The scary part is that it's even close. I mean, you know, it's scary that this woman... that we're close. Scary. But anyway, let's save that discussion for another
okay.
For another broadcast.
Okay,
so
thank
maybe
you.
We can have the Russian language one on Friday. I know we've been promising it for a while, but I haven't had time, to be honest.
That's true, yeah.
Maybe we can do it Friday in Russian.
George Bardmesser was with us. Thank you, George. Yes, and all who loves our broadcast, please put like, thumbnails, and subscribe for us. Thank you for being. We have more in our YouTube, X account, Rumble, Truth Social. Please check us and see what we produce and subscribe to us, and please follow in what we are doing. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye, guys.